Welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So I just want to start in the greenhouse because the video didn't take last week. So we're right, starting over here. Obviously, as you can see, the sweet corn's coming quite nicely. We've got some little ones just coming through here, but we have got quite a few sweet corns coming there. We've only got the 3 in there, and the one that's over here, I think we've still got 3. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 there. I think that's actually a tomato plant coming through, but that's the sweet corn. So again, not a massive success, but there's still time for some more of that to come. The Nero kale is growing like mad, and as you can see, that's really, to be honest with you, that's actually ready to put out. So I'm going to be putting that out later today. As you can see, all of the gourds, cucumbers, courgettes, and all the rest of it, they're sort of really coming on. The tomatoes are getting quite crowded there, so what I want to do is put some of these brassicas out today, and then I'll spread these out later today. Just to make a bit more room. These are the purple broccoli. As you can see, they're also ready to go out, so they're going to be going out today. So they're doing really well. There's no sign of the ginger yet, but I couldn't help myself. I actually had a dig down earlier on, yesterday actually. And you can see there's a little shoot forming, and also there's just one here that I very gingerly dig through, and you can see there's another shoot there. So it is coming. It's not quite through yet. I'm being quite careful with not overwatering this, to be honest with you. But as you can see, the ginger is starting to come. So that is growing. Right, I had a bit of a disaster. I came in the other day, and the main shoot, which was growing off the top of the grapevine, had snapped off. I don't know how it snapped off. I don't know if a bird's got in here over the night, or whilst I wasn't here, whilst I was at work or whatever, but it snapped the main runner off the highest one there, so I was quite gutted at that. However, every cloud's got a silver lining. I've got a second one growing here, and also there's one at the back here that's recently come through. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm either going to see if that one will grow up. If one doesn't shoot out of here in the next few days, what I'm going to do is cut all of that off and then let this one grow through, and I'll sort of grow on that one again. This one is still coming, but it's really slow. I don't know why this one's so slow, but as I say, it is coming. There's shoots on both of the runners, but unfortunately it's really slow. I'm not quite sure why, but that's the grapevines. Right, the parsnip propagator is doing marvels. Look at the little parsnips in there now. They're growing really well. Sweet corns at the back, that's the first batch where we only had just a few. Those are the cherry tomatoes up the back there, and those are some money makers which I'm intending to put outside. As you can see, the alpine strawberries are coming on. I don't know if you can see that one just there. So we've had a few alpine strawberries so far, so they're coming on really well. That's some more Nero kale, which I'm not likely to use because I think there's enough there for me, really, to be honest with you. So I'll probably give that. I've already given one away to somebody else. But right, these are the chickpeas, and as you can see, they're doing really well. I'm quite impressed how these have grown. Not 100% success rate, but there's still time for the others to come. But they are growing really quickly. Obviously, we've got some in this tray over here as well. Now, these here are the chickpeas, and there's loads of chickpeas coming. As you can see, they're growing like mad. Got loads coming here as well. That's the curly kale, which is also going to be going in shortly. Those are the cucumber plants, which I showed you. I've got those on the earth so that keep you nice and damp. These are the runner beans that I planted last week, and as you can see, some of them are already coming up. And those are the ones that went in a few weeks ago. And as you see, some of these are nearly 3 foot tall now. So I'm going to put these out now. I'm going to bite the bullet and actually put them out onto the framework now, because I think if I leave these another week in here, they're just going to be too far gone to put out. So I'm going to be planting these outside today, which I'll show you in a little bit, and I'll put some, if we do have any chance of frost, I'll put some plastic around them, and just to protect them a little bit. But unfortunately I made the mistake of planting these too early, and they're already ready to go out, even though we're not at the end of May. But that's the greenhouse today. Okay, so I'm just putting the beans in. We no longer need this this line, but as I explained, what you need to do is plant your beans just the size. So as you can see, there's a nice root ball on there. And what I'm doing is digging a hole. As you can see, the ground's nice and loose. You need to plant the bean just inside, and what I try to do is when you put it in like that, I don't know if you can see that, but the plant's actually facing toward the pole. So I'll just show you with this one next to it. Now, I actually watered these last night, but they've gone a bit dry. But as you can see, they're most certainly ready to go out. So if you just loosen up the ground, as I say, this has all been rotavated, and it's important that with beans the ground's nice and loose, and then plant it so it's actually facing the pole like that. Now, the reason you plant it on the inside is if you're walking along, you're not going to sort of knock it with your feet as you're walking along. The other thing is as well, I don't know if you've seen, I've just twisted that round. It always goes, as you look at it from the top, it always goes round anti-clockwise. Don't ask me why, it just does. You'd think it'd be the other way so it follows the sun, but it's actually the opposite way around. So I'll just carry on planting the rest of these along, and as I say, if there is any frost, what I'll do is I'll just put a bit of plastic around to protect them, but I shall leave them out. As soon as I've planted them all, I'll give them a really good watering in, and then leave them to it. So as you can see, I've put out all of the beans that really need to go out. These ones are a little teeny bit short, so I'm going to leave them for a few days, just in case we have a frost. I'll leave them in the greenhouse for now. But you can see all of the others are starting to come through. Now, this one is possibly one of the most bizarre things I've seen yet this year. It's actually a bean, and that's the root of it. The whole thing's upside down, and you can just see the tip growing out there. So I think what I'll actually do is take it out of this pot and turn it round, and so it's the right way around. But I've never seen a plant throw its roots upward, and the shoot's gone obviously down and then back up out of here. But I don't know. But anyway, I'll show you what it looks like down the bottom. So the upside down beans shouldn't have happened, because I always put them in the pot, as you know, as I've shown you in previous ones, like that. So obviously, if you put it into the earth, you push it in like that, so that little bit there is facing towards you. The reason you do that is, if you look at the bean, this is one that's got nobbled in the greenhouse, but if you imagine I'm putting the bean in like that, and so the shoot, I'm putting it in like that, so the shoot should then come out of the side, and obviously the root also. So if you put them in like that, then basically it should grow up and away. So I'm not quite sure why we got that weird one, but I've just taken it out of its pot. I've just put some more in here. I've just taken it out of its pot, and I can't actually turn it round, because I'll just show you. That's the one. So if you look at it from inside, I'll just grab it. What it's actually done is it's grown down, round like that, and then it's come back out at the top. So I can't really turn it around, to be honest with you. So all I'm going to do is just leave it in its pot, obviously try and cover its roots as best I can. Obviously the shoot's going to come up here, so all I'll do is I'll put this one in and then just bury it slightly deeper than I would normally, and I'm sure it'll be perfectly okay. But I've never known a bean grow like that before, but there you go, there's the first time for everything. So these are just some that have failed. I've just put some more beans in there, so, and obviously all of these will come. So I've just had a quick count round, and there's actually
enough beans to go around, assuming all of these go here. So I shan't put any more in quite yet, but what I probably will do in the next couple of days is just put in another dozen or so, just so you know, just to make sure that I've got more than enough, you know, with a few spares just in case any fail. Okay, so there are the beans, and it's worked out probably about a third of the row's gone in so far. And what I've done is, as I explained, I've planted them on the inside of the cane and then just sort of wrap them round the poles as best they can. But they will, now that they've got the poles there, they will start to wrap themselves around anyway. What you could do, like I've done on this end one here, is just put a little bit of string loosely, just to stop it unravelling itself if they are particularly long. But they'll start to grow up quite nicely now. Now what I've done is give them a really good watering in. I've put in, just on that bit there, it's had 4 big watering cans of water, and I've just bobbed some slug pallets on. The one thing that you need to watch out with beans is most certainly when you first put them in, they're very prone to slugs having a go. So as you can see, this one here, the leaf's actually been attacked there whilst it's been in the greenhouse. But what I would suggest is when you first put them in, put some slug pellets in, because the slugs tend to go for the kind of the base of the plant, and they will sort of chop the plant off and obviously kill it. So that's the beans for now. So I'm not going to put any more in quite yet, because obviously we've still got a slight possibility of frost. So what I'll do is I'll keep the others in the greenhouse. If we do get any frost, all I'll do is just wrap some plastic round these ones that are here, you know, like one sheet going all the way around all of them, just to protect them a little bit against the frost. But as I've looked on the weather forecast, we've not been predicted any, at least tonight. I shall leave them as is, and then let them get the benefit of the sun tomorrow morning. So that's the beans now. So I just want to go through a few of the comments that we've had this week very quickly. The first one comes from Paul Marvin, and he was talking about, last week I made a comment about the cucumbers, and I was saying about how if you've got male and female plants on the same plant, what you can get is a sort of cross-pollinating. Now he said he's heard mixed messages from various places. In all honesty, Paul, I can only speak from experience myself. I have had in the past, I've had cucumber plants with both male and female flowers on, and unfortunately they cross-pollinated, and basically the cucumbers grew really big and they were full of seeds and they were really bitter and basically you couldn't eat them. So and on the instructions for the plant it did actually say to remove all of the male flowers. Now possibly different strains or different breeds of the different varieties of cucumbers possibly may behave differently, but what I've always done ever since that time, I was advised by a good friend of mine to only buy female plants, and that's all I've done ever since. So as I showed you last time, the plants that I've got down here are the F1 female cucumbers, and they're doing quite well at the moment. They're sort of kind of yay big so far. So I mean, it's you know, as soon as they get to kind of this big, you know, they just go balmy after a bit, to be honest with you. So you know, I'm thoroughly expecting these to grow quite quickly in the next couple of weeks. As soon as I get them in the ground, they're going to be straight up the poles. But in all honesty, I would strongly recommend you get the only female plants. If you have got a plant which is both male and female, I was always told, I had a problem and I was told to remove the male plants, but he said he's seen somewhere where you actually pollinate the female flower. I've no experience of that, to be honest with you, so possibly have a look upon the internet with the you know, with the particular variety that you've got. But all of the ones that I've seen in the past, basically you need to remove the male flowers. So just basically look at the seed packet that you used and possibly it will tell you on there, but I think you need to remove the male flowers. Next one comes from Grumpy Poo. Now Grumpy Poo has put on a bit of advice which I thought was worthwhile sharing with everybody about earwigs, and what they've been doing is getting some jam jars bottles, like milk bottles or whatever, and stuffing some sort of leaves and that the earwigs are going to like, stuffing them in the bottles, and then putting the bottles down where the earwigs have been, and overnight the earwigs will go into the bottles obviously to get the leaves, and then first thing in the morning, what they've been doing is going up and basically emptying all of the earwigs out of the bottles and sort of dispose them. So that's basically one way you can trap earwigs. So I thought that was a good idea, which I was worth sharing. So thank you, Grumpy Poo, for sharing that with us. Next one comes from Karen Hudson, and Karen's bought a grapevine, and she was saying, where's the best place to plant it? Right, there are various varieties of grapevine. When I bought the 2 grapevines that you see in the greenhouse here, I went on Panoma Fruits, which is a web-based company where you can sort of buy mail order plants. I went to various garden centres and stuff like that around the area, and I couldn't quite find the grapes that I wanted. I definitely wanted seedless, and I definitely wanted one that I could grow, you know, potentially in the greenhouse. And my children like particular types of grapes. They like the ones I buy from Tesco's, basically. So that was the one I was trying to get. So with grapevines, there are varieties that will grow outside really well in the UK. There are other varieties that will not grow outside in the UK. These varieties that I've got will need to be grown inside a greenhouse. There are quite a few varieties that you can grow outside, and the likelihood is, as you said that you got it from, I think it was Aldi's or Lidl or something, I can't remember where you said you bought it from, the likelihood is that's probably an outside one. But to be sure, have a look up on the internet or on the plant label and whatever else, see what it says, you know, sort of where to plant it. The one thing that I would suggest, or at least the 2 things that I would suggest, with grapevines, they like the roots to be cool. So the roots need to be ideally in the shade where they're not going to get sort of too warm. Grapevines like cool roots. As they're vine plants, they like the vine, you know, the leaves and all, you know, the actual plant above ground to be in sunlight. So with grapevines or any vine plant really, what you need to do is keep the roots cool and dark, and you know, sort of in the ground, like a sheltered spot if possible. And then you want all of the leaves and the shoots and everything to be in the direct sunlight, as much sunlight as you can possibly give them. That's the best bit of advice I can give you. So what I would suggest you do is obviously bury the roots somewhere in a sheltered spot if you can get it, and then grow it ideally up a wall which is south facing, so it gets the sun all day long. But obviously if you can plant the roots in a sort of cooler position, that's going to be the best thing for them. So with any type of vine plants, and obviously grapes are vine, plant the roots somewhere cool. They like the roots to be cool, and they like the you know, the rest of it to be in the direct sunlight, so it gets plenty of light. That's the best bit of advice I can give you. But if to plant it outside or inside, really you need to look on what variety you've got. There are a lot that you can grow outside, so I would imagine the type that you've got will grow outside. All you need to do is make sure they don't like sitting in, they like rich soil, but they don't like soil which is sort of heavy and sort of clay and holds the water. So what I would suggest you do is if your ground is quite sort of heavy, what I would do is dig in some sand or gravel or whatever just to break it up a bit, and put some organic material in there, and don't plant them anywhere which is kind of too waterlogged or damp, because they won't enjoy those conditions. That's the best advice I can give you for grapevines. Next one comes from Foodie Laura, and she said her comfrey has also flowered. When I do the tour, you'll see this. It's in full bloom at the moment. So Foodie Laura said she's going to crop hers now, even though it hasn't got to the usual 4 foot high. She's going to take all hers off now. And to be honest with you, Laura, I think I'm going to follow suit. I think I'm going to chop mine off the next few days. The comfrey that I didn't move, I've got some that's established. I've had a look at it this morning, and that's also in flower. So I don't think moving it's actually caused it to flower. I just think it's the weather conditions we've had this year has caused it to flower early. So what I'm going to do is, obviously I don't want it to seed everywhere. So now the bees have had a bit of fun with the flowers, what I'm going to do is chop it down and you know, sort of mulch that down for fertiliser for the tomatoes when they come in here. So I think I'm going to get mine down as well. Thank you, Laura, for your comment. Next one comes from Rockin' Billy 50, and he was saying about the perennial spinach. Last week I showed you there was some seed heads forming, stuff like that, and he said, is it worth saving the seed? I've never saved the seed, to be honest with you. You could potentially save the seed. The reason I've not in the past is I typically like to clear the ground off and then plant something else there. And to be honest with you, as you put in your note, is it just not worthwhile, and it's cheaper anyway? A packet of seeds for perpetual spinach, and you get about 400 or 500 seeds in a packet, is a couple of quid. Really, it's not really worth the bother, to I'll just go and get a fresh pack and, you know, sort of do it that way. But you could potentially save your own seed. But I don't bother. But you know, you potentially could. Next one comes from Tina Reeves, and Tina's got some leeks, and she said her leeks are. She's planted them in some pots, and she said they're quite sort of crowded now. And she was saying, should she sort of split them up, or just leave them in the pot or wherever. In all honesty, my leeks just outside. Hang on 2 seconds. I don't know how crowded yours are. Mine are like that at the moment. I don't know if you can see that, but they are sort of reasonably crowded. Unfortunately, they've all sort of come out the middle of the pot. Now I've probably got about 30 or 40 plants in the middle of the pot there, and they're reasonably crowded. I don't know quite how crowded yours are. What a lot of people do, which is probably what I'd suggest you do, is a lot of the guys on the allotments, what they do is as soon as they've kind of grown to that, what they'll do is they'll take them out of the pot and then split them into sort of strips, if you like. So if you imagine, take that out of the pot and then sort of get your thumbs in there and just separate them out, and so you've got like strips, and then plant a small row of them, so put them in a row. So don't separate them all out completely. Try and soak them really well, and then pull the roots apart try your best not to damage the roots when you're doing that, and then make a drill in the ground and then plant them in a row. That's probably the best thing I'd advise you to do if they are really overcrowded. In all honesty, if they look like that kind of crowdedness, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd leave them in the pot for a bit, because really with leeks the roots go down as opposed to sideways, so don't worry too much. As long as you've got a nice deep pot, I wouldn't worry about the roots getting too crowded, to be honest with you. But if they are crowded and you're worried about it, as I say, split them up, give them a really good soaking in water, and then sort of try and sort of split them up as best you can without damaging the roots, and then plant them in the ground at the same depth in like a row, and then leave them there for another month or so, and then when they've grown big enough for you to handle and sort of separate out and sort of dib in the ground, then obviously then move them on and then put them into a full row like you would normally. So that's the best suggestion I can give you. The next one comes from Teresa H, and she was talking about rotating potatoes. Now Teresa's really lucky. She lives over in Mississippi in the US, and there they have really good weather for growing all sorts of crops, and basically they can grow all year round. Obviously in the UK we're kind of limited to the kind of the summer months. In the winter months we can't really grow that much. And she was saying that she has a problem with kind of trying to rotate plants and sort of keeping it fresh, and she was worried about her potatoes. Now, after I did the Mother Nature rotating crops episode, I don't know if you remember, but the episode later I discussed some of the comments that I'd got back, and I had quite a few comments coming back with people saying that they've grown potatoes in exactly the same location for sort of 10, 15, 20 years, and they've never had a problem. Now with crop rotation, it's really the brassicas and things like that you need to worry about, and sort of beans, because they take all the nitrogen out. Beans put nitrogen into the ground. It's the other plants that sort of the brassicas take all the nitrogen out of the ground and stuff like that. So it's things like the brassicas. They're really the reason why you need to rotate stuff, because you get club root and diseases and stuff in the ground. Now, if you are worried about your potatoes, what you can do is keep growing the potatoes in the same ground over and over and over again. I try to rotate them. I rotate mine on a 2-yearly basis to go back up and down the plot. But I have had quite a few people comment that they've grown their potatoes in the same position year in, year out, and they've never had a problem. So don't worry about rotating potatoes. If you want to grow them in the same place, you're perfectly okay to do that, I would imagine, because everybody seems to be okay. It's the brassicas, they're the ones that need to rotate, and you're moving other things round because the brassicas need to move. So that's really the reason. So as long as you move your brassicas about, things like your potatoes and potentially your beans and that can stay in the same place. But it's basically the brassicas that need to move, so don't worry about your potatoes. The next one comes from Mark Lawrence. Thank you for your comment, Mark. And Mark was talking about the wormery. Obviously we discussed the wormery last week, and he was saying what he does, which is really good for his worms. What he does, all the scraps that he gets from his kitchen, what he does, he'll sort of break them up into really small pieces, put them into a plastic bag, and then he'll put them in the freezer. Leave them in the freezer for a day or so till they all freeze down, and then take it out of the freezer, and then basically just let it thaw out, and sort of warm up again. And when he says what this does is it increases the speed of the sort of the sort of the breakdown and the sort of the rotting of the vegetable. So then he gives that to the worms, and basically all that he's putting in the worms is a sort of sort of more rotted mixture, if you like, so the worms can get straight in there. So I thought that was a really good tip, and that's what I will try. So what I'm going to be doing is over the next week or so, what I'll do is I'll get some peelings and that and cut them all up, put them in the freezer in a bag, for a day or so, and I'll take them out, thaw them out, and then give them the worms and see how they get on with them. So I thought that was a really good tip. Thank you very much, Mark, for that tip. The next one comes from Andrew Lee, and he was saying, Jim, you make loads of videos. How do you come up with the idea? To be honest with you, Andrew, I've always been the same. I've always had loads of things to do. If I'm not up the garden, I'm typically in the garage doing something, or making and fixing and all sorts of stuff. And to be honest with you, the videos don't really take me a lot of time, to be honest with you, because I'm, at the weekend when I've got a quiet half an hour, I'll typically come up to the allotment and I'll quickly do the tour video. And all of the other clips that you see are typically done during the week, as I'm, when I've got sort of 5-10 minutes to come up here and do a bit of work. So really, the videos don't really take me a lot of time to do. And all the things that I'm doing in the videos, like the stuff I'm making or whatever, I would do that anyway. So all I do basically is, rather than just make something, every couple of minutes I'll stop and video what I'm doing. So really, the videos don't take me a lot of time, to be honest with you, and a lot of the stuff I'm doing I would do anyway. I'd just like to share it with people on YouTube. But don't worry, there are plenty more videos coming. I've got how many ideas? I've got a book full of ideas to to do at some point, and a lot of the things like the wind vanes and like the fence with the wire, with the trees and all the rest of it. That's been in the pipeline now for probably about 4 or 5 years. The wire that I used on the trees, the wire going across, I actually got that wire about 6 years ago to do that particular job. And so there's plenty of stuff coming. I've just been waiting to get around to do it and all the rest of it. So, but there's always plenty coming along. So don't worry about this. There's going to be plenty more videos. Don't worry. The next one comes from Nigel over in Wolverhampton, Muddy Boots, and he was saying, can you put coffee grounds and tea bags into your wormery? Yes, you can in small amounts. The things with wormeries is what you don't want to do is get the acidity too low, because obviously tea is very acidic. That's why I always suggest to put tea bags on things like rhododendrons and any other plant that likes irrigaceous conditions, in other words acidic conditions. So if you put too many tea bags in your wormery, what will happen is it will potentially go too sort of acidic in there, and basically your worms won't like that. So just be careful what you're doing with that. With coffee, you can put coffee in there. Coffee will do two things. It will help with the decay because it's high in nitrogen, but I wouldn't put too much in there. I wouldn't put loads and loads in there, because obviously the caffeine that's in the coffee may have an adverse effect on the worms. So put a bit of coffee. You can put the odd tea bag in there, but I wouldn't put too many in, because it's going to raise the acid level in there, if you like. It's going to drop the pH. So and worms don't like that. So I wouldn't put too many tea bags in there. The next thing he says, could you spray it onto the ground rather than watering it in? And in all honesty, what I would do is water it down, and then water it on. Reason being is, if you water, sort of dilute the solution and then water it on, that's going to penetrate into the ground and get to the roots of the tomatoes or whatever plant that you're watering it on. If you spray it on the ground, what's going to happen is basically you're going to have a very high concentration of nutrients on the surface of the plant, on the surface of the ground, sorry, and that's going to encourage things like algae and stuff like that to form on the surface of the soil, which is obviously to be avoided. And obviously the plants that you want it to go onto, it's not going to get to the root. So what I would suggest is watering it down and then watering it onto the plant, and that'll it'll feed the plants that you're trying to feed, obviously. So in all honesty, water it down, dilute it, and then water it onto plants that way. Then you're going to get the stuff to the roots where you want it. The last comment comes from Richard Sydenham. Thank you for your comment, Richard. I did want to put this one in last week, but I ran out of time. Richard made a very, very, very good point, and thank you for reminding me. Worms don't have teeth, so what they do is they use the particles in the earth to to break up the larger particles of plant matter and stuff like that in the ground. So it's a really good idea in your wormery to put yourself a couple of shovelfuls, not shovels, a big shovel, like just a bit of earth in there to start them off, because the worms will need that to sort of break down the vegetable matter. So in your wormery, when you put your compost, in that compost there was actually earth anyway, but where I said, in your separate layers, obviously you've got your gravel, then you've got your wet straw, and then you've got some on top of your wet straw. I said to put some compost. That's compost out of a compost, not compost as in potting compost. That's compost as in out of the compost heap, just to start them off. And in there's dirt and stuff anyway. So, but if you haven't got any compost from your garden, put a spade full of earth or so on top of the straw, then that will give the worms something to sort of work through with the vegetables and that. But that's a very good point, Richard. Thank you for reminding me. And that's the comments for this week.
Just come up to sort the chickens out, and I've found we've got a little teeny chicken egg today. I've not had one that small for some time, and that's from a normal sized chicken. But you can see in comparison to the others, it's rather small. So the sunflowers have got to kind of this stage now, as you can see, they're kind of yay big. Now really when they get to this stage they really are ready to go in. So what I will be doing is planting these in the ground. All you need to do is just basically dig a little hole and take them out of the pot and bob them in. Now obviously when you put your sunflower in, what you need to think of, most certainly if you're in an exposed area like me, is these are going to grow something like 10 foot high, so you need to have some structure near them that you can anchor them against. If you haven't got anything in your allotment that you can do that, then what I would suggest you do is actually put a stake or something next to them so you can tie them up. Now what I will be doing is putting a few of these sunflowers on the framework. So I'll have, obviously I've got a tree here and a bush, so what I'll do is I'll just put a sunflower in the middle there, so I've got a few sunflowers running along the back here as well. Not too many, I'll just put sort of, I don't know, maybe 8 across the back. But obviously you need a structure like this. The rest of them will be going along the green tunnel on the other side, because I've got like a metal bar that runs along the middle of that, obviously that I can tie it to again. But I'm just sort of making the point really is when you put your sunflowers in, you need to think about having something near them that you can anchor them to, maybe sort of 2 or 3 foot off the ground, or even higher, possibly 4 foot off the ground, just so if the wind catches them it doesn't sort of blow them over. Because I have had them in the past where they've completely blown over, and it's such a shame when you've grown your sunflower all year, and then as soon as the flower head forms at the top, they become top heavy, and then a bit of wind and they blow over. So if you're putting your sunflowers out this weekend like I am, make sure you've got either a stake next to them or something to anchor them against so the wind doesn't take them. So just very quickly, there's the sunflowers put in there. What I've done is I've obviously given them a really good watering in, exactly like the beans, and I've just put some slug pellets around. There's a few slug pellets cut on the top, because again slugs love sunflowers, so just to give them a little bit of protection. Now what I've done is I've kept them away as much as I can from the trees and the bushes, because obviously as the bushes are sort of establishing themselves and getting the roots into the ground, what I don't want to do is have the sunflowers sort of disturbing that. As I say, I've done that as much as I possibly can do. Here I've had to put one close to the tree because I've got some concrete underneath this particular post, so that's a little bit closer to the tree than I would have liked. And there's another couple on the end there, but obviously I'll now have the structure now for the sunflowers to grow up, and I can attach it to these cables and all will be good. So that's the sunflowers in at the top.
So I hope this episode of Jim's Love of Garden has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments, questions you've got below. I always appreciate any feedback from anybody, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of the subscribers on the channel. I do appreciate your support, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Love of Garden.